If you're constantly imagining a bigger life but rarely actually acting on it, that doesn't mean you lack ambition. It might just mean you've become more attached to being someone with potential than actually risking the discovery of what you can really do. Hey, I'm Emily. So I used to tell everyone I was going to write a book, and I honestly believed it. But months turned into years, and that blank document just stayed blank. I kept blaming motivation until I finally realized I was protecting the perfect book in my imagination from becoming an imperfect one in real life. And learning how to actually work through that fear changed the way I follow through on pretty much everything. So here's what's actually going on. A big dream gives you two completely different experiences. The first one is exciting. You picture the future version of yourself, the business, the body of work, the freedom, the recognition. Everything just feels possible. The second experience kicks in when you ask, okay, what do I actually need to do today? And suddenly the dream isn't inspiring anymore. It's confusing, it's repetitive, and it's emotionally risky. That difference is kind of what explains how someone can think about a goal every single day while barely moving toward it. There are 5 psychological traps inside this pattern, and the last one is usually the hardest to admit. So the first trap is confusing emotional movement with real movement. Thinking about your future can create hope. Researching can create excitement. Telling someone your plan can make the dream feel more real. And none of these things are automatically bad. The problem starts when the feeling of progress replaces actual progress. Psychologist Gabriele Oettingen studied what happens when people indulge in positive fantasies about the future. And her research found that just imagining a desirable outcome on its own doesn't really create commitment. In some cases, it can actually leave people emotionally satisfied without preparing them for the obstacle that's right in front of them. So what that means is, your vision of success might be comforting you instead of directing you. You're not doing nothing because the dream means too little. Sometimes you're doing nothing because, honestly, thinking about it already feels good enough. The second trap is emotional avoidance. Piers Steele's major review, The Nature of Procrastination, describes procrastination as basically a failure of self-regulation. We tend to avoid tasks that feel unpleasant, uncertain, or just far removed from any immediate reward. Then researchers Fushia Sirowas and Timothy Seikl took the idea even further. They argued that procrastination often works as short-term mood repair. In plain language, you're not always avoiding the work. You're avoiding the feeling attached to the work. Maybe opening the document makes you feel inadequate. Sending the application creates the possibility of rejection. Starting the business kind of forces you to confront how much you don't actually know yet. So you scroll, you organize, you plan, or you watch another motivational video. Your mood improves for a moment, and your brain learns something kind of dangerous. Avoidance creates relief. Have you ever noticed that the task feels even heavier after avoiding it, but somehow you still avoid it again the next day? Yeah, that's because procrastination solves the emotional problem for like 5 minutes while making the practical problem worse. The third trap is protecting your identity. As long as the dream only exists in your imagination, your potential stays unlimited. You could become a successful creator. You could build the company. You could write the book. But the moment you actually begin, reality enters the picture. Your first attempt might be pretty average. People might ignore it. You might discover that you're a lot less prepared than you hoped. And for some people, that feels like losing the identity of being secretly capable of something extraordinary. So they stay attached to potential, because potential can't be judged. Real effort can. This is why perfectionism often looks like ambition from the outside. The person sets these extremely high standards, but those standards make actually starting feel dangerous. They're not protecting the quality of the project. They're protecting themselves from what an imperfect result might seem to say about them. The fourth trap is waiting for the correct emotional state. You tell yourself you'll begin once you feel clearer, more confident, or more motivated. But here's the thing. Your future self isn't arriving with a brand new nervous system. Monday's version of you is still going to prefer comfort. Next month's version of you is still going to dislike uncertainty. The perfect moment feels believable because it lets you delay without officially giving up. And hey, if this is helping you recognize your own pattern, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We explore the hidden psychology behind everyday behavior and turn it into changes you can actually use. So how do you actually break the cycle? Well, not by demanding that you become a completely different person by tomorrow. You start by making the dream physically specific. Don't write, "Work on my business." Write, "At 7 p.m., I will open the pricing page and draft 3 package options." Psychologist Peter Gallwitzer calls this an implementation intention. Basically, an if-then plan that connects a specific situation with a specific behavior. If it's 7 p.m., then I open the document. And this matters because vague goals force you to make another decision at the exact moment you're most likely to avoid discomfort. A clear cue takes part of that negotiation off the table. Next, use mental contrasting. Picture the outcome you want, but don't just stay there. Identify the inner obstacle that's sitting between you and the next action. Maybe the obstacle isn't time. Maybe it's the fear that your work is going to look amateur. Then create a response. If I start judging the first draft, then I'll keep going for 10 minutes before editing anything. Now the dream is connected to reality, and the obstacle is connected to a plan. Then record the action. A meta-analysis led by Benjamin Harkin found that monitoring progress actually improves the likelihood of hitting a goal, especially when progress is physically recorded or made visible somehow. And this is more powerful than it sounds. Every completed action becomes evidence. You're not trying to convince yourself that you're disciplined anymore. You're collecting proof that you act even when you don't feel ready. And that brings us to the 5th trap. Believing your past behavior is your personality. I never finish anything. I'm all ideas and no action. I'm just lazy. Those sentences turn repeated behavior into identity. And once that happens, every missed day starts to feel like confirmation. But identity can actually work in the opposite direction too. Do one meaningful action today. Record it. Repeat it tomorrow. And when you miss, just return without turning the mistake into some kind of character verdict. The goal isn't to feel like a successful person before you act. The goal is to act often enough that your self-image eventually has to update. And that's the deeper truth. People who dream big but do nothing aren't usually missing ambition. They're caught between the emotional safety of imagined potential and the vulnerability of actual effort. The dream stays perfect as long as it stays untouched. But an untouched dream can't change your life. Make the next step clear. Expect the discomfort. Attach the action to a cue. Track the evidence. You don't need to destroy the dream. You just need to stop using it as a hiding place. Subscribe for more useful psychology videos and share in the comments. What's one dream you've been protecting instead of building?